Hello everybody and welcome back to Operation Logistics, where routes are actually working, which is a little weird. So here we are in the vehicle script. And inside of the vehicle script, there are a couple of things that we're going to want to do. We're going to want to put in a couple of variables here. So first we're going to want to do public route following route. So that way we can assign the vehicle to a route. That's going to be a pretty important thing. We're going to need to figure out how we want to do that on an interface level. But for right now, this will be fine. And then we're going to need to do public. This is going to be a float. And we'll do fuel equals 100.0 F. For right now, we're just going to do that. And then the vehicle balance here. Let's go to the implementation of that quick. Vehicle range is in there already. Okay. Traversal speed in hexes per hour. Okay, what do we... Where is our vehicle balance? Is that set up in the inspector? I think it might be set up in the inspector, in which case it would be in scripts, theoretically. Let's see here. Balance. Vehicles. Delivery vehicle. Vehicle cost 100, vehicle upkeep 5, vehicle range of 10. And that range is intended to be what? In hexes. So it's supposed to be able to go 10 hexes without refueling. So I think the simple thing here is to have the fuel to start at 10F, since that's what the default is for the delivery vehicle. And then when we spawn this, we can go ahead and do... Well, we're going to need a public float max fuel. We're going to have that also start at 10 for now. And then when we create the vehicle, we will go ahead and set these. So max fuel equals balance dot vehicle range. And then fuel also equals balance dot vehicle range. There we go. So we now have access to that. And then we're also going to need a public building. And we are going to call this, we'll call it what we've called things like this previously. We'll call it a berth. So essentially, this is where the vehicle will return to refuel. If it enters the hex containing this building, it will stop to refuel if it's not full. Okay. Now the other thing is, we need to also realize it will also stop at any refueling station along the route, following the same rules. Okay, so if it enters its berth or a refueling station, it will refuel at that time. Does refueling cost money? I don't think so. I think that's part of the upkeep. Right here. I think that's part of this. Now, are we currently not charging vehicle upkeep? I think we're not. Are we charging building upkeep? I think we're not. I'm assuming this has the same balance? Yes. So we already have the upkeep cost here. And realistically, we can probably just copy this whole thing looking at it and paste that right under the balance here. Now, we don't have an upkeep modifier, and we're not going to have one, I think. And then our type would, of course, be a vehicle type. So this should be a get vehicle balance from type. And realistically, this should probably just be balance dot upkeep. Well, this is going to be what? Upkeep cost? What is it? Vehicle upkeep. There we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and charge upkeep on vehicles and buildings. That's going to be on the month tick, I think. And it's just going to take it all out every month. So, when the month tick happens, we should say business. Wait, hang on. Manager.business. Manager.business dot current funds minus equals upkeep cost. Like that. And then we're going to do the same thing when we go into our building, because those have upkeep costs as well. I pinned it instead of going into it. There we go. So in the month tick, we'll just charge the upkeep cost. There we go. And then we're going to need to be able to have some sort of a method, because when we spawn the vehicle, we can assign the birth at that point when we spawn or move the vehicle. So I believe that is done... where? In the hex selection window? On select vehicle slot. On enter vehicle transfer mode. Okay, where do we create a new vehicle? Can we just search new vehicle? Here it is. So we can assign this here then. And it goes in building, so vehicle.birth equals building. And then when we do vehicle transfer mode, that's in the business. So we can go ahead and go into the business and then do on enter vehicle transfer mode and check to see where that actually happens. There's on purchase vehicle. On enter vehicle transfer mode. Here we go. So then we're going to need to do this in the building hex, I believe. When we are interacting with it in vehicle transfer mode, which is where? Create route, edit route, vehicle transfer. Here we go. So, the vehicle then... New building.vehicle, blah, 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 blah. Check that the hex isn't full. We set this all in. And then we're going to need to do here, business.selectedVehicle.birth equals new building. Like that. So that'll change over the birth. And then we're going to need in the vehicle something along the lines of public void on enter building hex. Okay, so when we enter the building hex, we're going to need to do a couple of things. Like, when is this called? Well, we don't know exactly yet. We know the traversal range per hour. So in the minute tick, we'll probably do the actual motion at that level. And then on enter building hex will be something that would be called there. But we're going to assume for right now that we're calling this, which we aren't. So when we enter the building hex, what do we need to do? Well, what do we need to do? We need to check a couple of things. So, let's make some assumptions. Those are fun and always correct. Excellent. Okay. assumption... there we go. Assumption number 1. We are at a... what do I want to call this? I guess I could call this a vertex of the root. That is a full hex. Assumption number 2. This function has been called by the movement algorithm. Okay, so with those assumptions in place, what do we need to actually do when we enter the building hex? Well, we need to know what building we have entered, right? So we need to be able to say building entered building equals manager dot... I mean, this is a non-mono behavior, which is a little awkward. But we did that very specifically. It couldn't be a mono behavior, right? Or it didn't need to be a mono behavior. But we're going to need a reference up here to public game object, and this is going to be the... You could call it like the visuals. You could call it like the physical object, whereas this is a virtual object. Although it's not a virtual object in terms of the parlance. Like it's not a public virtual it's not virtual in that meaning of the word, that sense of the word, but it isn't a physical object in the world. So the game object here would be a mono behavior, and this would be the, I guess we'll call this the visuals. And that is going to represent the, well, visual component. So then, entered building would be manager.getBuild, hang on, manager.hexManager? What did we call it? Oh, this is the time manager, isn't it? Yeah. Manager.business.hexManager. Hey, there we go. Oh boy. Get building hex by position, or rather get building by position, and then we're going to pass in, and instead of saying we are at a vertex of the root, let's just go ahead and say that the visual game object is at a vertex of the root, that is a full hex. So we then get the building by position of visuals.transform.position. Like that. And now we know what building we've entered. So if entered building equals birth, then we are going to go ahead and do our refueling. And we need a variable here for that. So public bool refueling equals false to start with, because we start off with full fuel. So if entered building equals birth, or entered building dot type equals building type dot fuel depot, or rather fueling station. So if it's our birth or it's a fueling station, then we would check to see if we have less than our max amount of fuel. So if fuel is less than max fuel, refueling equals true. Okay. And then we would want to do something along the lines of grab all adjacent packages. However, we don't want to do that if we're refueling. So we want it to be either refuel, or we want it to grab all adjacent packages. So let's actually just, instead of doing an else there, let's return here, because I still want it to grab adjacent packages if it doesn't refuel. So we can then grab all adjacent packages from this building. So we can go ahead and just create a function for that. We'll make this be a private function, I think. private list package, which I don't think we have as a script. Feels like we should. Apparently we don't. Really feels like we should. So let's go ahead and just make one really quick here. I'll make it in the core folder. Create C# script, and actually I'm going to call it parcel. Okay. There we go. We'll go ahead and reload. Private list parcel. Pick up mail. Actually, it's going to pick up and deliver mail the same way, right? So we can call this like pick up and deliver. About like that. Now that's currently going to return a list parcel. That's okay. And it is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And in the next episode, we will continue implementing vehicles. See you all then.